What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. We are all undoubtedly taken with the bold new Pokémon game, Legends Arecus, coming at the start of next year. It's no surprise since it delves into various gameplay aspects people have wanted to see, while also shaking up the standard Pokémon formula. So it might be easy to forget that there are Pokémon games coming even sooner, with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl in just a few short months. And while there is a little controversy with these games, I think they do have promise. So let's see what they need to do, or avoid, to ensure that these games are well received, and maybe even some tips for you personally based on how they take these suggestions. Probably the biggest thing these games need to do in order to produce the broadest appeal is to include Platinum. Now, I know they are remakes for Diamond and Pearl, so that will be the main focus. But the truth is, we can expect some Platinum rollover. You look at Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and we see quality of life improvements and even story beats from Crystal in the Gold and Silver remakes. And the same is true for Oros, containing Emerald references as well. So this is almost a given, but there's more to it than that. While it would be cool to have a trip into the distortion world and everything, I'm not expecting that as a main focus of the game, at least before the credits. But what I do foresee is something with maybe our friend Looker, who was first introduced in Platinum. Having a larger emphasis on this Interpol officer and giving him a couple of missions, maybe against Team Galactic, would be a great way to honor his debut in the Gen 4 recreations. While I don't expect them to deviate too much story-wise, they absolutely must draw from the Platinum Pokédex. The Diamond and Pearl decks had some great new additions, but there were some supremely limited options, mostly for the Fire type, but also others like Dark. Or they may have had some options, but all of the good ones were really hard to get. When the third game rolled around, they addressed these shortcomings by simply including Pokémon that weren't available last time. So hopefully we can make it so that everyone's team won't be identical out of necessity. If they don't change it, then your best bet will be to pick up a Chimchar as the only viable fire type in the region outside of Rapidash. Now, one thing they absolutely should not do is uphold all of the HMs in the Sinnoh region. Hidden machines have been in most Pokémon games, but there seemed to be a special interest in them from the developers of the Sinnoh era. While surfing isn't as crucial as last time, there's still plenty to swim on, as well as Cut, Rock Smash, Rock Climb, and let us not forget, Fog. Fog was one of the worst additions to any Pokémon game, negatively impacting every battle by reducing pretty much every move in existence to 60% accuracy. So if they could just get rid of that outright, that'd be pretty cool, but that's doubtful. Instead, I'll settle for making these obstacles less of a burden by removing the HM aspect of it, meaning they wouldn't take up a precious move slot. And I do expect this to be the case, giving us a replacement like Poké-Ride, but a better example might be the Let's Go games. They're also remakes. Here, the functionality of the HMs remained, but they kept the roadblocks in place, and was done outside the confines of ruining the combat prowess of half your team. So I do completely expect some method of keeping these cutoffs without the HMs, but if the worst should come to pass, be sure you grab a Bidoof and a Pelipper to cover as many of them as you can. Now, we mentioned about Giratina and the Distortion world, but one thing that they absolutely should do is include other legendaries. And I don't just mean loading them in the decks like reading about Manaphy in a book. We should be able to go on an adventure and capture these mythical Pokémon in the post-game. We did get the requisite way of collecting most legendaries, this time in the Dynamax Adventure Caves of the Crown Tundra, so they might not want to add an extra ceremony around Heatran, for instance, but there are plenty of mythicals from the Sinnoh region that are still not found in this generation at all, so folding them into the gameplay of these sparkly remakes would be most welcome. I'm not saying we need all of them per se, like I could see them holding off on anything including Arceus, since it is having its own game just a little while later, so that's fine. But what about teaming up with a Pokemon Ranger out at sea to go find a Manaphy or something? That would be awesome, and help to set these games apart from the originals to justify their existence. Having a mission pertaining to Darkrai after catching Cresselia could finally showcase the relationship between these nocturnal spirits. We can leave out some of them like Shaman or something, but even just having one of them would help to widen the experience and make playing the Sinnoh games on the Switch just a little more special. More of a quick thing they should do is absolutely keep the bottom screen features from the originals. Obviously they would need to do some tweaking to work on the singular screen, but coming onto the DS let them play around with so many cool tricks like the Pokétch. That thing had more useful features than a Rotom Dex any day. You could do anything from monitoring your team's happiness to just flip a coin, or even keep track of roaming legendary Pokémon. This thing is the only reason I even caught a Mesprit in the game at all. Maybe they'd have to put this behind a menu, like hitting the minus button or something, I don't know. But I do know that they've at least thought about it, because we see footage from the Sinnoh Underground. Here we used the bottom screen to excavate, so we know that these control alterations have been in their mind. I just hope that it can be implemented for the whole game, because otherwise players won't get the full Sinnoh effect. It'd be like seeing a Kalos remake without Pokémon Ami. Now, this might not be about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl so much, but if you ask me, something they should not do is sour these games by moving on too soon. By this, I mean coming out with a new game or set of games too close to this debut. Now, I know the Legends game is coming out right on the heels of these remakes, but it is still steeped in the Sinnoh legacy and lore, so it will only add to the hype of the return of Gen 4. Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum were the jumping-on points of many, so a celebration of that time in the franchise deserves its day in the sun. So why would you interrupt it or cut it short to rush on to something else? I mean, I know the answer, it's money, but honestly, a little break could be better for you in the long run. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. If it were me, I would put Pokémon Legends all the way in November and have it be the headline game of the year. But its placement early in the year makes me skeptical that they won't be able to control themselves and they'll have to have something pushed out for the fall. I could go for a side game then, but it would be way too soon to come out with another mainline game, or Arceus Forbid Gen 9 that close to a game that shakes up everything we know about a standard Pokémon game. Let us dive into these changes without cutting it short, because 3 major games in the same calendar year is going to be a bit of an overload, and I just don't have faith in their ability to let a good thing rest. Whatever you think of the Solo movie, there's no question that it underperformed, and one of the major reasons was it coming out too soon after the previous Star Wars film, so no franchise is immune to fatigue no matter how big. All of their games could be successful if given their own space, instead of forcing people to choose. The last time we got a break from Pokémon was all the way back in 2015 on the 3DS between Oros and Sun and Moon. Even last year gave us 2 rounds of DLC. And while not everyone will have participated in that, those that did got more Pokémon than they usually would, and may be less inclined to shell out for so much repetition in such a short time. So I doubt they'll bother listening on this one, but the 1-2 punch of the Sinnoh region exposure can more than tide over fans for a little while before we have to move on to the next thing, giving them more time to make it perfect while paying homage to the original timing of Gen 4 as well. And finally, the last thing that should not be done regarding these games is not from the people behind it, but from you. Don't write off these games just because. Now, they're not paying me to say this. I don't even get a free copy sent to me or anything. Unless? No? Okay, yeah. I still have to pay for my own copies, but listen. Just because you don't like the way the game looks right now, doesn't mean it'll be awful. First of all, we've already seen the graphics change since their first announcement, so it will likely be improved by the time it comes out. But even with the DS proportions, there's still some cool stuff here, like fully seeing in through the doors of Pokémarts and centers in the overworld. That's awesome! And that's really only half the game anyway. During battles, you still see the full models of Pokémon and trainers alike, just like always. The covers themselves are dripping with intricacies that would make Sword and Shield blush, so it's likely that there will be cutscenes of some type that look different from the rest of the game, like what happened in the original Diamond and Pearl. If you're saving up for Legends Arecus instead or something, that's understandable, but if you're just foregoing these games because the art direction simply rubbed you the wrong way, I'm afraid you might miss out on something that you'll really enjoy for petty reasons. That's the same logic that leads full-grown adults to skip out on stories they might love simply because they're in the medium of animation, and animation is for kids. Plus, if you think these games look bad, if the original DS generations are anything to go by, the Unova remakes are going to look way worse. I don't know how these games will be. Better if they follow my suggestions, but I am excited to revisit this region, and many will be going for the first time. There could certainly be missteps, but if these remakes have even half the effort of the other great ones in recent memory, they'll do just fine. But those are my do's and don'ts for Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. What do you want to see in these games? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!